As many of you know, that chilling video was released when two Delphi girls were murdered under a bridge. And today we have some updates. But before we get started, welcome to True Crime with Maneater. If you love all things true crime, including missing person cases, cold cases, and just the strange happenings of the world, you've come to the right place. Be sure to subscribe and turn on alerts so you never miss a video upload. Let's get started. This case was actually a really big case, so I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. But before we go into the update, I just want to kind of reiterate what happened for those of you that weren't familiar with the case. So that video we watched in the beginning was actually found on one of the girls' phone. So on Monday, February 13th, 2017, Abby Williams and her best friend, Libby German, were dropped off at the Moonin High Bridge to do a little hiking. During their time, Libby actually posted a photo of Abby walking on the train tracks to social media. And then after that, they were not heard from again. So obviously the parents of the girls realized that the girls are nowhere to be found. So they actually began searching for the girls themselves that Monday on the 13th. And when they're having no luck and they're beginning to worry, they call the police. And that sparks a manhunt for these missing girls. And unfortunately, the next day, half a mile away from where they were last seen, the bodies of both girls were found. And then police would later release some really chilling video footage of the killer. And although there were thousands and thousands of tips coming in, nobody knew this person. And although they didn't have a primary suspect, they did have a few suspects. I want to run through the list of suspects because I think it's important to go through. Recently, a search warrant for a prime suspect was released in the Delphi case. And what's really explosive about this case is what's in that search warrant. In that FBI search warrant, they noted that one of their suspects, Ron Logan, who actually owned the land that the girls were murdered on, couldn't be ruled out as the voice of that man in the video. And although he couldn't be ruled out, he was never formally named as a suspect in the killing. And unfortunately, he died in 2020 due to COVID. I just want to warn everybody that the details I'm going to tell you next are a bit disturbing, so viewer discretion is advised. So the search warrant actually outlines that the girls had lost a lot of blood. The attack was very vicious. They were covered in blood. There was blood everywhere. And although the search warrant didn't note how the girls were killed, but it did note that there were no signs of struggle or a fight. It did reveal that the killer most likely got blood on his clothes, and it also stated that the killer took a souvenir with him, but it didn't provide any further details about what that souvenir was. But it had said that the rest of the girls' clothing was recovered, so it kind of is implying that maybe the killer took some of their clothing as a souvenir, but that's just reading in between the lines. It also notes that the killer staged the bodies, and although it doesn't tell us why or how the bodies were staged, they do assume that videos or pictures were taken of these girls after they were dead. The warrant also stated that they had probable cause to search Ron Logan's house. The warrant also mentioned that when searching Ron Logan's house, be sure to check for videos, pictures, cameras, computers, anything in his house, his car, any buildings on his property, also bodily fluids, hair, guns, cutting instruments, all things that we can assume are linked to the murder of these two girls. And the document also stated that in that video, Logan's voice is not inconsistent with the video, but also it couldn't be proven that it is him. Ron Logan was known to have many knives and guns in his house. He was kind of an avid collector of them. And the one thing that Ron Logan did that was pretty sketchy in this case, he reached out to a family member the day after the girls were killed and asked them to tell police about his trip the previous day. He wanted that family member to tell the police that he arrived home between 5 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. And that family member did actually lie, but 2 days later, he told the police because Ron Logan had asked him to lie, and Ron Logan had never asked him to lie in the past. And it appears that he actually asked this family member to lie for him before the bodies were even discovered. The warrant wrote that Logan made statements that were found to be factually false and intentionally designed to deceive. And then during a search of Logan's property, they found a receipt that was time-stamped for 5:21 p.m., which was a town about 30 minutes away from Ron Logan's home. So that obviously made his alibi quite shaky because there's no way he could have returned home between 5 and 5:30 when he was 30 minutes away from his own home. Cell phone data also revealed that Ron Logan had been near the Monon High Bridge where the girls had went missing the day of their disappearance. But another possible suspect actually has been named, and his name is Keegan Klein. Keegan Klein is a 27-year-old man who admitted to talking to Libby using a fake account on Instagram called Anthony Shots. This fake account featured a really fit guy who was very attractive, which was opposite of Keegan Klein, who was overweight and a suspected pedophile. And he used this account out to trick young girls into speaking to him. Keegan Klein also said that he shared that fake account with other people. So other people had his password and were actively using it. And one of those people was his actual father. His father had been supposedly using that account, which means he could also be a suspect in the killing of these two girls. Currently, Klein is being held in jail on separate child porn charges, and neither him or his father have been arrested in this case, but they are considered suspects. Another suspect that should be considered is James Chadwell, who's a 43-year-old man and was added as a suspect in 2021. He was arrested after he lured a 9-year-old girl into his home where he sexually assaulted her and strangled her in his basement, which was about 20 miles from where Abby and Libby were murdered. The girl did survive, and he is now serving a 90-year sentence. And in an interview in 2021, Chadwell's brother stated that his brother, James Chadwell, is pure evil and was more than capable of murdering those two girls. Authorities have yet to release any connection between Chadwell and the girls. Thomas Bruce was also looked into as a possible suspect by the police, but no charges were ever brought against him. So Thomas Bruce was a former pastor who was charged with fatally shooting one woman and sexually assaulting two others at a Catholic supply store in St. Louis, Missouri. He was noted to have a similar statue as the man in the video, and they noted that Thomas Bruce had worn similar clothing in a crime he committed that looked quite similar as the video of the man on the bridge approaching the girls. He is currently in prison serving life for his crimes. Police have also noted that they have DNA, and of course they won't come out and say what that DNA is, but it is supposedly linked to the killer. So they could use this DNA to rule out suspects. So obviously there's a lot of new information. The girls, obviously we knew, were attacked, but it was a very bloody and vicious attack. It was definitely staged by the killer. They took pictures, maybe videos, but they did stage the bodies, which really does mean that there probably is footage of the girls that the killer wanted to keep as a memento, which may mean that they have done this before, or maybe this is their first time and it's going to be something that they continue to do. And it did note that a souvenir was taken, and although we don't know what it is, I think if we read between the lines, we can assume that it's clothing. But again, I don't want to draw any conclusions. Also, it's important to note that only a small portion of that video was released to the public. Many people believe that the rest of that video is very scary, chilling, probably very graphic. So we don't actually know what's on there. Police are obviously not going to tell us because they are actively looking for this person now. So they have to withhold some details from the public. I think that it's probable that either Ron Logan had something to do with it. If Ron Logan isn't the person responsible for these girls' murders, I really believe that Keegan Klein knows more information than he's letting on to. He was talking to Libby. He did admit to talking to one of the girls, and when the girls went missing, he received a message saying, "Did you see these two girls went missing?" And he said, "I was supposed to meet up with them the day before." That's a little suspicious to me. And then during a police interrogation, he kind of keeps faltering on whether or not he was talking to her. So the police officer is talking to Klein, and he says, "You told an investigator, and I know you say you don't remember a girl that you'd ever talked to, but I know you remember Libby German." And then Klein says something that was inaudible, and the police officer says, "Right, and you know you talked to her, and you admitted to talking to her." And Klein cuts him off and says, "I don't think I ever did, though. I think I talked to one of her friends, like I told them." "Police, you admitted you talked to her." And then Klein says something that's inaudible, and the police say, "For a few hours at a sleepover, and then you blocked her because she was annoying you, remember?" And then Klein says, "Yeah, you're right." And then the police go, "Do you remember that?" And Klein goes, "Yeah." And then the trooper goes on to say that, "Okay, well, this Anthony character that you created was supposed to meet up with Libby on that bridge the day she died." And then Klein's response was, "See, I don't remember ever saying to meet up with me, though." And the police officer actually went on to quote his earlier message to that person about meeting up with the girls on the day they died. And then Klein was getting angry, and he said, "That's a damn lie." And in a media interview, Klein said he thought that the police were trying to get him to pin it on his father, the murder of these two girls. And he went on to say that his father was abusive and he owned guns, and that his father had a lot of domestic violence cases filed against him. He also claimed that his father liked younger women and slept with a young girl who was only 17. And unfortunately, Libby was really kind of fascinated and curious about Anthony, this fake accounts that Klein had created, and she was kind of mesmerized by him, and obviously they had plans to meet the day of her murder. Obviously, Keegan Klein should be a prime suspect. Not only did he solicit pictures from from underage girls and was actively talking to Libby. He literally went on a deleting spree and he deleted apps and cleared data and all of that stuff. He's denied saying that he was going to meet up with them, and then he said, okay, I did say that. There's a lot of reasons to look at him as a suspect. So I just wanted to give everybody an update on this case. Obviously, the new search warrant gave a lot of new information. Still, the murders have not been solved, and I'm very hopeful that soon they will be. But that's it for today, guys. If you like this video or any other video on my channel, be sure to subscribe and turn on alerts so you never miss a video upload. See you next time.